Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios here in New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as #AskDave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this Wednesday, the 8th day of June in the year 2016. A lot to get to in this show. 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. Your question on everything: diet, training, supplementation, question on IFBB pros, competitions, and of course, we will address yesterday's controversy regarding the Live With episode with or without Kevin Levrone. Some housekeeping to take care of. Happy birthday to two of our good friends in the industry, Sadiq Hadzovic and Nathan Diasha. Nathan Diasha, of course, coming off his big win in the Toronto Pro Show. And a hearty congratulations to our good friend Paulo Almeida getting engaged. So congrats to Paulo, the man they call the Freak, now officially off the market. Big news next Monday. We had teased this for quite some time, but it is finally a reality. We are going to be live with Triple H next Monday. The time, I believe, Johnny Styles, correct me if I'm wrong, is noon Monday, correct?
Yes.
So Monday, noon Eastern Standard Time, next Monday, rxmuscle.com, Dave Palumbo, one-on-one with Triple H. You're not going to want to miss that. And of course, we also will have Stephanie McMahon on an upcoming Live With. We will announce the date and time of that episode, but next Monday, as you've seen on the screen, Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be live with Triple H, a special episode of Live With. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, right now the bodybuilding world is abuzz of the episode that wasn't Live With or without Kevin Levrone.
Yeah, before I get to that episode, Johnny just yelled out, "It's Sadiq Hadzovic's birthday," and obviously you had announced that already. He hadn't heard that, but Johnny's is a little shell shocked because he got into a little car accident before he came in here. He went to McDonald's. I know it's not on the diet, but he was at McDonald's and they were pulling out and someone banged into them. And then an hour later, another employee of mine went out to get some supplies and he got rear-ended. So I'm petrified to leave the office now because we had a lot of bad luck here in the office with the car accidents today. So I'm staying as long as I possibly can. But yeah, yesterday was the anticipated Kevin Levrone interview, and Kevin called me up about 45 minutes before the show and said he couldn't do it. And I thought he was kidding because he had been calling me nonstop over and over and over and over the whole weekend for the last 2 weeks. He's the one who scheduled the Live With interview, and Bleckman put the kibosh on it because Bleckman was paying him $4,000 a month, even though Bleckman owes over $100,000 out to other employees. Matter of fact, I made an announcement on the show yesterday about if anyone out there is owed money by Steve Bleckman, please contact me. And I already have like 3 people who contacted me. One guy who lives in Dubai right now is owed $2,000 by Steve. So a lot of controversy. A lot of people told me they actually enjoyed the show better that Kevin wasn't on it because John Romano and I just were whining and ranting. And some people seem to like when we whine and rant. But, obviously we pride ourselves on high-quality programming. Obviously, the Kevin Levrone interview would have been one of the best, I think. And unfortunately, the people who lose out are the fans who are out there waiting to hear the interview. And I felt bad for everyone. But you know what? I had to really point out the hypocrisy of what Bleckman was doing because he took away an interview from the fans, and he's paying money to Kevin. And God bless you, Kevin. But what about the money that's owed to the photographers who work tirelessly, the videographers over there, Charles Glass, and the list goes on. So it is what it is. Right now we're going to focus on me answering your questions, though.
Also, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention we were live with Jason Janov yesterday afternoon. That episode is available online. Jason Janov, who currently is battling cancer, and we, the RS Muscle community, are doing what we can to support his efforts. I'm trying to pull up the GoFundMe page right now. As soon as I do, I'll have it. It's GoFundMe.com/25NGB3G. Go to our YouTube page or rxmuscle.com. Pull up that episode. You'll have the GoFundMe page, the link right there and then, and you can help donate to this worthy cause as we pull together, again, for a worthy cause to help Jason Janov in his time of need. As we get to your questions, again, if you want to ask a question, you join us on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. If you're not a member already, it is free to register. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can comment on the chat box on the right-hand side of the video player on our official Facebook page. You can tweet using hashtag AskDave or on our Instagram page, official_RxMuscle. Let's go to the forum. Icon Show Off. Dear Dave, I hate this show like Hillary supporters hate Trump. Haha. He put the haha in all caps. So my question to you is, what would be the best method to bring up a lagging side? In my case, my left trap and shoulder along with bicep are smaller than my right trap, shoulder, and bicep. I've been starting every workout with the similar side first, and whatever reps I get on the small side, I do the same for the big side, but it doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, you have to prioritize your training, obviously. You want to make sure that, whenever, and this, a lot of people just think that, doing unilateral training where you're doing one arm at a time will balance it off, and that usually doesn't happen. What I found is I had one leg smaller than the other leg, and what I did was when I would squat, I would only focus on the weak side. So in my case, my right leg was smaller than my left leg, so when I would squat, it would be like I was squatting with one leg, my right leg, because the left leg would work no matter what. And I put all my mental focus, all my mind-muscle connection on my right leg. Every set I did for legs, whether it be squats, leg press, hack squats, and leg extensions when I did them at the same time. And I'll tell you, it came up. It took time. It took a couple months. But little by little, that right side improved. And ironically, the right side wound up having more definition and separation in the muscle because of that dedication I put to it, mentally speaking, or nervous system speaking. And but the left side always looked great because it just developed more readily. And I don't know why that is, but that was the case. And with one of my arms also, I had the same thing going on. And what I would do is I would prioritize that arm in the sense that I would always focus more when doing bilateral movements on the weaker side. And then at the end of the workout, I would do a couple of extra sets unilaterally for that one side. Once they caught up, however, I never did the extra sets. I would only but I always focused on the weak side. I knew what my weak side was. On my upper body, I think it was my left side, and on my lower body, it was my right side. And I always prioritized those by focusing, mentally speaking, on those sides.
Let's go to Curtis Spania on the Muscle Central forum. I hate this show so much. I would rather team up with Species Nutrition and create a product only containing fiber and lactose called Lactolize, which would immediately be an immediate success. And when Dave tries to cut me out to keep the profit for himself, he has me kidnapped and locked inside a submarine with Greg Valentino, who just had some cheap protein powder with Lactolize, only to find out there is no bathroom. And when I call for help, I hear that Superman is coming to save us, but to my disappointment, I only see Stevie B on a canoe wearing a Superman shirt and leaves me with a subpoena because traveling on water was his original idea. Very well done. My question is, I've started to train legs with heavier weights, around 6 to 8 reps, but I no longer feel the burn when I squat, nor do I nearly get as sore afterwards. Should I keep training legs in this rep range or switch back to around 12 to 15 reps?
Remember, soreness, muscle soreness, doesn't indicate growth, okay? Soreness usually indicates overtraining. Now, whenever we try to start changing the way we work out, whether we increase the weight tremendously, the way we stand, in other words, wider stance, closer stance, change the tempo of what we're training, we're going to feel sore the next day or for a couple of days till our body gets used to it. Once you get used to it, you're not going to feel sore. I tell people 98% of the workouts I did, I never was sore the next day. That didn't mean I wasn't growing. I grew most of those workouts, okay? So you shouldn't always be sore. If you're always sore, then you're not recovering properly. So, I think that your rep range is pretty good. I might even drop it down to 4 reps and go even heavier, because the heavier you can go with up to 4 reps, you're going to build mass. And that's really the way it goes. Now, if you were to go and start doing 20 rep sets, you probably will be sore the next day, but that doesn't mean you're going to grow better. So you got to disconnect the two and understand that heavy weights build muscle.
Let's go to Micah or Mika BB. I hate this show so much. I'd rather ask George Farah the questions because my name is always spelled wrong. Just kidding. You're always spelling it right. Dave, do you think that you can be in a calorie deficit and still gain or not lose weight at all if the macros are totally wrong, if you're eating too much carbs and too little protein and fiber?
Well, here's a good experiment. Scott Conley once explained this to me, and I think it's a good analogy. You could put someone on a 2,000 calorie diet, okay, that contains so many grams of protein, so many grams of fat, so many grams of carbs, and they could gain muscle and lose body fat. You can put that same person on the same diet, you can give them prednisone, which is a catabolic corticosteroid, and they will gain body fat, okay, and look terrible and hold tons of fluid. You didn't change the food they're eating. How can all of a sudden they go from building muscle, burning fat, now they're storing body fat? Because the cortisol is a negative partitioning agent in the body. It tells the body store body fat. So, the body is different, okay, and it responds differently to different foods, and you have to find out what the right macronutrient profile for you happens to be, and that's the best way I can explain it. There's no other way. Different diets for different people work differently, but the same diet for the same person can work differently depending on what's in their body. You take anabolic steroids and you eat that same 2,000 calorie diet, and you'll build even more muscle and burn more fat. So that's just the way the body works. It's how the outside influences affect the foods you're eating and your metabolism.
Let's go to Benadu14. Hey, Dave, I hate this show so much. I would rather work full-time for Bleckman and have all my paychecks sent over to Kevin Levrone than watch the show. Hashtag why cut back. Question, what is the best way to deal with post-injection pain soreness, especially pre-contest when injecting high volumes frequently? What sites and techniques do you use to avoid pain, lumps, and swelling?
Well, I think the key is don't over-inject one particular area, because if you do that, you're going to get scar tissue built up, and you're going to get maybe malabsorption of the ingredients, and you're going to get lumps under the skin, and it's not going to look good. So vary your injection sites from glutes to shoulders to lats. Those are probably your safest places. I don't like to recommend quads at all, because the muscle is very dense, and I see a lot of guys getting infections. I do not recommend that. If you're sore, it's interesting. A lot of times, like 2 Tylenol will take away pain. Something as simple as Tylenol, because a lot of the pain caused by the injection sites is sometimes it's the compound that's in there, but a lot of times it's an immune system response. You're getting a rise in prostaglandins, which cause a feverish feeling sometimes, or a little soreness, kind of like what happens when you get the flu. And what happens when you get the flu, you take 2 Tylenol, usually your fever goes down and some of those aches go away. So the Tylenol will inhibit the prostaglandin production and will alleviate some of that discomfort.
Let's go to Jack, spelled with H. I hate this show, Dave. If you could start coaching somebody who has done steroids like Tren, Tesipinate, Equipose, but hasn't been using steroids for a long period of time, let's say more than 5 years, would you start again with mild steroids like Anavar, Primobolin, or what would you do?
Yeah, I would probably start mild if they haven't done anything for a long period of time. I probably would start now if they have a lot of experience with taking anabolic steroids, like Kevin Levrone not going to start taking Anavar. But having said that, assuming you're not doing the Olympia, you can start with 1 or 2 shots, 250, 500 milligrams of testosterone a week, with maybe 200 to 400 milligrams of like Deca or Equipoise per week. That's a mild cycle that you'll probably grow well from, because you haven't done anything in 5 years. I haven't done anything. I haven't done a cycle in, I don't even know when, 2004, aside from hormone replacement, and I haven't even done that. Probably if I took a 500 milligrams of testosterone a week, I'd probably gain 25 pounds of muscle from that. So, it depends on how fresh your body is. And if it is fresh and it is going to respond easily, there's no reason to go crazy and take a lot of stuff. I wanted to just preface one thing about the previous question. The reason I recommend Tylenol over Aleve or ibuprofen or anything like that is because Tylenol doesn't inhibit muscle growth. It doesn't inhibit the inflammatory process, and that's important. So if you're going to take something on a regular basis for injection site pain, use Tylenol over the ibuprofen.
Let's go to Monstro. Dear Dave, I hate your show. In contest prep, can I use Femara instead of Arimidex 1.25 mcg EOD, or is it too hard in sides? I always get more ripped with low test 300, high trend 525, but you suggest always more tests. I normally lose size when I decrease test dose. Is the test dose what keeps you big if you need to be a 225 shredded bodybuilder for 5'5"? Is 750 mg test enough to keep you big? So then he goes on to say, so high test low trend with a lot of anti-estrogen versus low test high trend low anti-estrogen.
If everyone's not confused enough, I actually just focused on what the actual question was. First of all, it doesn't matter which aromatase inhibitor you use, whether you use Femara, you use Arimidex, you use Aromasin, they all do the same thing. So that's fine. As far as anabolic to testosterone ratios that people are using, I hate to be like one of these like guys like my dad and these young guys don't know what they're doing. But you know what? Everyone thinks they're gonna create a better beast and they have a better methodology. We've already experimented. I've experimented doing everything. Let me tell you. In the 90s, I did everything and I tried everything. And I will tell you one thing, that testosterone builds muscle, okay? And when your anabolics are too high, it waters down the testosterone effect. So if let's say you took 1,000 milligrams of Primobolin a week, or 1,000 milligrams of Winstrol, or 1,000 even equipoise, and you took 200 milligrams of testosterone, you will not grow as well. I promise you. Now, when we talk about Trenbolone, which is super high in androgens, okay, Trenbolone is not as anabolic as testosterone, but it's certainly more androgenic, 3 times more. You take 1,000 milligrams of Trenbolone a week, you're going to have high blood pressure, you're not going to sleep, you're going to have anxiety, okay? That's not good for your health. If you can't sleep, you don't grow and you don't recover, okay? And high blood pressure will destroy your kidneys. So believe me, testosterone is the safest compound to take because of the fact that our bodies naturally produce it. So we can handle it, our bodies. So I find that 750, 1,000 milligrams, 1,200, the most is all you need. To me, in my experiences over using steroids for many years, 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week was ideal, combined with something anabolic, whether it be equipoise, Deca, Masteron, whatever you want to use, in the 300 to 400 milligram per week range is adequate. The max you want to take is 500 or 600 milligrams of the stuff. You definitely want more testosterone than anabolic, however.
We go to our Instagram questions, and we have one which we had to do some research on to find the actual video, to find the quote, and it was from Dexter Jackson. This question from DYR have _ legend. Dave, what are your thoughts on Dexter Jackson's comments? He held a Facebook live chat last week, and the question was whether he would ever interview with RX Muscle, and I think Johnny has the clip. We'll play for you. So we'll have the clip for you, and then after that, Dave will comment on Dexter's comments from the Facebook live chat.
I think we're having a problem getting the clip up. But, I will say one thing while Johnny's trying to cue up the clip. Dexter Jackson and I go way back. I know Dexter. I competed with him. I know Dexter for years and years and years, and I've interviewed him a million times. I actually went down when I was with Muscular Development. I actually went down and spent the whole day with him. I know his whole routine, his gym routine, his massages, where he gets his food and what he eats, and and I know his girlfriend Ellie and Ellie, and I think they're great people. But when I critique a bodybuilder on stage, okay, I don't hold back anything. Chris Aceto and I say what we think and what we believe, and I think we've been around this industry enough that our opinions are valid. Okay, you might not agree with them, but they're certainly valid. And these guys get upset. They get pissed off when we give our opinion, and I don't know what to tell you. Too bad. That's what my job is. My job is a critique, is a critiquer. I'm a press guy that's meant to critique physique. Let's hear what Dex has to say, and then I'll comment.
Large seasoning salt. Yes, that's right. Why I wouldn't interview with Dave Palumbo? Because he's a snake in the grass. He's a piece of shit. Him and Chris Aceto. They both ain't about shit. They always talking trash behind people's back, and they always, if Chris Aceto clients don't win, then everybody look like shit. All his clients look better than everybody. You know what that is. I'm with MD. The real reason is I'm with MD, so I can't do any interviews with them anyway.
So there are two things there.
Well, here's the thing with Dexter. First of all, Dexter didn't like the fact that Chris and I didn't think he deserved to win, okay, the New York Pro, and that we thought Ruli Winkler should have won. That's the bottom line. And he didn't like the fact that we didn't think that he deserved to beat Cedric McMillan at the Arnold Classic. That's just my opinion. I think Dexter has a great physique. Doesn't mean I'm taking anything away from Dexter the person, but these guys take stuff personally. And you can tell he took it personally. I'll tell you why. Because if he didn't take it personally, he just would have said, look, I don't agree with them. But he actually made it, he was vindictive about it. He was angry, and he called us names and cursed. When you curse, that means your ego's been bruised. And Dexter has a big ego, and he should. You know what? He's he's the winningest bodybuilder of all time, and he will probably break Ronnie's record pretty soon. He's got the most Arnold USA wins. He's got an Olympia title under his belt. He deserves to have a big ego. He's a great bodybuilder. That doesn't mean that when I don't think he deserves to win, I'm not going to say it. And for the record, we don't talk behind people's back. We talk in front of their backs. We talk right to their face. Chris and I say right what we think to everyone's face. And if you don't like it, too bad. Doesn't mean, if you don't want to be my friend because you don't like what I say, that's fine with me. But I think that the fans demand the truth and honesty. And I'm going to tell you what my truth is. It doesn't mean it's everyone else's truth. You don't have to agree with me. Maybe you think Dexter did deserve to win. That's fine. It's a pro show. It's close. Everyone's close. But in the end, everyone has to make their own decisions. And if I don't agree, then fine. When Dexter won that Olympia, I thought he deserved it. I thought it was a great victory on his part. And I've seen him win a lot of other shows that he was tremendous at. I didn't think he was his best in New York, and I thought Ruli Winkler was more impressive to me. That's just my opinion. And if Dexter doesn't like it, that's fine. But you know what? If I saw Dexter in a restaurant and we were in another country, we could sit down and have dinner together. There's no bad blood here. I think he was mad that Chris and I didn't think he deserved it.
Let's go to more questions, and let's go to Antonio_Smothers. Dave, your recommended peak week diuretic protocol, and okay, so you want, okay, never mind. Just answer the question.
I charge $150. No, I charge $100 for last week contest prep. A lot of guys contact me. They send me everything they're doing, pictures. I lay out a whole last week protocol for them. I take them day by day. They send me pictures and updates, and we make sure we peak them for a show. You can sign up at DavePalumbo.com. I'm not going to sit here and go through a last week protocol with anyone because everyone's different. It's different for everyone. So, I've talked about in the past my belief that you only restrict fluid 12 to 18 hours. I only give diuretics the day before a show, and I only restrict sodium the day before the show. So that's it in a nutshell. But everything else, how I carb people up, is very individualized.
Let's go to Titusif. Hi Dave, I never got it right. When doing cardio post-workout, should you take your protein shake before or after cardio?
After cardio. Remember, cardio is meant to be done in a depleted state. That's why we do it first thing in the morning. Or after we train. After we train, we're in a depleted state. If we drink a shake after we train, we're not in a depleted state anymore. We're not going to burn fat. So yeah, always do the shake after the cardio.
Let's go back to more Instagram questions. Again, our handle is official_RX Muscle. Let's go to S.Ivanov. Dave, do you think that Phil can still bring his 2011-2013 look at the 2016 Olympia?
Phil doesn't have the same physique he had in 2011 and 2012. However, he's freakier, meaning he's got bigger muscle now. He needs to come in with that same level of conditioning and fullness. If he does, he will be very, very tough to beat because he has, as Chris Aceto likes to say, he's very cartoonish. The problem is he's been either too flat or not, full enough or not hard enough, all in the same combination the last 2 years, in my estimation, okay? When he puts it all, like I said, I saw him after last year's Olympia. We were at the gym, Jay's gym there, City Athletic, and he was doing a photo shoot, and I'm like, Phil, you look ridiculous. What did you do, go eat burgers and fries? He goes, yeah, how'd you know? I said, well, that's what you should have done before prejudging. He goes, I know, I get too nervous. He looked outrageous. When he's full and the skin is tight, with his conditioning and his shape, he's deadly. And I think that's what he needs to bring to the stage. And if he does, I don't think anyone will beat him. I think that he's just too good. However, I think he starts getting nervous before the show, and they go on the side of conservative, or they over diuretic him a little bit too much, dehydrate him too much, and he loses that wow factor. When Phil doesn't have wow, he's vulnerable. When he has the wow, he's almost unbeatable.
And speaking of Olympia, we have a question from Tony_MW17. Dave, I hate this show so much I'd rather pay Kevin Levrone more money than Bleckman just to not interview with RX Muscle. By the way, that was really low what Bleckman did yesterday. Should everyone we want to see in Vegas actually compete at the Olympia this year? And I guess he means including Kai. Who do you see winning it this year? Do you truly see Phil being able to win again this year, given the appearance he's had the last 2 years? If not, who do you give the best chance to dethrone Phil Heath?
Well, in my estimation, Phil Heath is still the man to beat. He still has I think whether he wins or loses is in his hands. I don't think there's anyone out there who could take that away from him if he comes in at his best. Having said that, we haven't seen him at his best the last 2 years, and because of that, he's vulnerable. Who is he vulnerable to? Well, we know he's vulnerable to Sean Roden, who arguably might have won the prejudging at last year's Olympia. Obviously, he's vulnerable to Kai, but from what my sources tell me, Kai is not going to be at the Olympia. And I think that's a mistake because Phil has been vulnerable the last 2 years. Dennis Wolf, we don't know if he's going to be there. He just got surgery on his neck, so that's a wild card. I think that Rami's going to be very dangerous this year because Chris Aceto's working with him, and he's looking tremendous. I think he's definitely going to be a guy that's going to be super dangerous on that stage. And I'm also hearing from Chris Aceto that Cedric McMillan is very dangerous. Let's not forget, Cedric beat Kai at the Arnold. Kai won the show because of the posing round. So Cedric, if he comes back even a little bit better than the Arnold, is also another deadly competitor on stage. So Phil really has his work cut out for him. He's got to come in at his best. And if he doesn't, I think that the judges could possibly give it to someone else. Whether that happens or not, who knows? Because I've never seen everyone show up at the Olympia in shape on the same day.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. As you see on the lower third, we have Triple H special episode of Live With next Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time right here on RxMuscle.com. And then at a later date, we're going to have Stephanie McMahon, so a double dose of WWE-related live weights here on RxMuscle.com. Let's go to Nuno146. Dave, I hate this show more than Steve Bleckman hates paying his employees. What are your thoughts on Dennis James' MTUT training protocol? I tried his leg routine on Saturday, and today I'm still reeling from the after effects.
Well, if you felt it and you like it, then it must work. I always say there's no right or wrong training routine because I believe that every training routine can elicit some kind of response. I think I'm going to make up like a routine called the Jumbo Palumbo Mass Freaky Anabolic training routine, and I'm going to put it out like in the next week or so, and let's see who grows off of it. I bet you we get a lot of growth from it. Look, there's no such thing as magic training. It's just putting together exercise in different different directions, with different sets, with different rep amounts, and naming it something special. And if people believe that it's going to work and they diligently follow it, you're going to get results. It's good to shock your body and change your training up. I do believe that heavy weights with good form, is the way to go. But I think every once in a while you can stagnate on the same routine. So I say try it.
Let's go to, it's either David or David Gouveia. Hey, Dave, pre-contest, what is the dose range that you would recommend for a 200 to 220 pound bodybuilder for Primobolin acetate tablets? I've never tried it before and heard it gives great fullness.
Well, Primobolin acetate is a great drug, especially for women, because it only lasts in your system a couple hours. Now, that means that women are exposed less to the drug. For men, it means you need to take it frequently, okay? Meaning like every 3 to 4 hours. Back in the day, I used to get these Primobolin S, also known as Primobolin acetate tablets. They were from Germany. There was like 50 pills in a bottle. They were 25 milligrams a piece, and we would take 2 to 4 of them a day. Every 2 to 3, every 4 or 5 hours, I would take one. And they seemed to make me harder, but who the hell knows? We were taking other stuff with it. So you're not going to grow a lot of muscle from it, but it is a good hardening agent. And and I will tell you one thing, because it's an acetate, it doesn't kill your appetite. A lot of the oral anabolics are hard on the liver, and they do kill your appetite. The acetate is not hard on the liver, because it's not 17 alpha alkylated, so it's safer to take, and and you kind of feel good on it. So it's a good drug, I think, even to take in the off season if you can get them. But they're very expensive too. And once again, for a man, it might not warrant the amount of money you're going to pay for these things.
Let's go to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/rxmuscle.com, all one word, and go to either Johnny or Johnny Gangoff. I hate this show so much because exactly when I'm in the rush for something, there's an Ask Dave or a Lie with video I cannot ignore, so I'm always like, good to hear. Dave, I was on cycle for 14 weeks preparing for competitions. One show I won, one show I took 4th place. It has been almost 2 months since I finished my cycle and everything went well. I did PCT, I did blood work, and everything is perfect. If I start another cycle now and try to make improvements for my next show, is it going to be a problem because I didn't take at least 3 to 4 months off, or is it good because I feel absolutely perfect to start again in 2 weeks?
Look, after the PCT is over, I like guys to take 6 weeks off of everything. So you do your PCT, then do 6 weeks and clean out. The reason I do this is because most of the guys I work with stay on the majority of the year. So after the clean out is over, we do a off season, and we up until 16 to 18 weeks out from competition, and then we do a competition cycle immediately, and then once again we clean out after the cycle. And we do this; it's like a yearly type of a cycle. So every year they get to go off 6 complete weeks, which usually comes out to about 12, about 10 or 12 weeks total with PCT, and that seems to be adequate to clean guys out, allow their organs time to regenerate, allow the receptors time to come back, and give them a feeling of well-being, and give them a little bit of relaxation, because the androgens really hype you up, and they stress you out a little bit. So that's my methodology. I think guys, once they're off, they get so crazy, I can't wait to go back on. I'm not growing. Look, it's only another couple of weeks. Give yourself the full clean out. Believe me, it'll help you long term. And sometimes in life, you got to most of the time in life, you have to take a few steps back to take a big, giant leap forward.
Let's go to Mirko88 Fodor. Dave, what do you think about carb cycling? When and why? Cutting sodium last day. Why and how much? Still hating from Croatia.
I think carb cycling works to a certain degree. To me, it's more of a gimmick than anything. I usually start my guys on a contest diet with some carb days, some no carb days. So I don't really go I don't have like a range. I'll just go either carbs or no carbs. And, I usually start off with like 3 or 4 days of carbs in a row, and then I go no carbs. Some guys, and it's a very, very rare bunch of guys I have, and there are some guys, they don't lose fat, they don't lose weight on fat diets, on higher fat diets. I have to go lower fats with them, and I give them carbs every day. And those guys, I might go like a higher carb day one day, a lower carb the other day, high carb, lower carb. But I don't do like 3 or 4 different carb days. It gets too complicated. Guys then forget what day they're on. They don't, I screwed up yesterday. I thought it was a medium carb day, but I did a high carb day. Sometimes you get too technical. It's too much. The bottom line is that the lower the carbs you can put in the diet and keep the body full, the better the person's gonna respond, and the more body fat they're gonna lose. So what I do is I base it on how people's weight loss goes. I try to feed them as much as I can and get them to lose weight. If they don't, I start taking carb days out, and I start adding cardio so we can get the weight loss to start accelerating a little bit. And then obviously as they get closer to a show, I work them harder. When we're further out, I don't push them as hard. As far as sodium the day before a show, I cut all sodium out just the day before the show, starting in that morning. That means no added sodium. Whatever in the foods naturally is fine. Most of the time, after the person stops drinking about 9 o'clock that night, which is the night before the show, I'll usually put sodium back in for the last meal. Now, whether I give them a burger and fries that Friday night, or I just give them a clean meal with some sodium in it, is dependent on how they look. Okay, and then the day of the show, I allow them to eat sodium because they're not drinking anything. So I'm only putting the sodium back into the diet once the drinking has stopped.
Reminder, on our YouTube channel and on rxmuscle.com, we have yesterday's episode of Live With or With Not Kevin Levrone. It turned into essentially Iron Outrage with Dave Palumbo and John Romano. It is available now on our YouTube channel. And of course, our Live With episode with Jason Janov, who is going through a battle with cancer right now. And we ask you, the RX Muscle community, to view the episode, go to the GoFundMe page, and donate generously to help him in his battle against cancer. Time for a couple of more questions. Let's go to Daniel Lino. Good question here. Can you tell someone's potential to be an Olympian based on natural gains, or does it always depend on their reaction to the various bodybuilding drugs?
Everyone's different. Kevin Levrone, you might never know, would be a world-class bodybuilder. You put, one shot of steroids into him, and the guy blows up like a freak. So everyone's different. I've seen natural guys that were gifted natural guys, and they went on steroids, and they got worse. But I've also seen natural guys like Ronnie Coleman and Kai Green take drugs, and they became Olympian champions or pretty close to it. So you don't know, because some people are hyper responders to drugs. Some guys just have really good genetics. I don't know. I personally naturally got up to about 215, and people all thought I was on drugs, but because I was so lean all the time. And when I put these steroids in my body, I grew really well on them, because I always had a problem gaining muscle. Being lean was never a problem for me. So for my body, the steroids really ignited me. Would I ever have been a champion bodybuilder without anabolics? Probably not, because I don't think I had the genetic structure to do it. Then you see guys that have great genetic structures who even when they take steroids can't gain enough muscle. So once again, it's a genetic thing. You don't know what your potential is until you actually try to be a big, huge bodybuilder. And then you find out what you got.
Last question from Sergio Rodriguez. Hi, Dave. Mark Lobliner says that keto diet is stupid because most of the protein gets converted into glucose. Therefore, the keto diet is pointless. Is this true? And if so, how much of the protein is converted into glucose?
You got to remember, what is a ketogenic diet? A ketogenic diet is when the brain is burning fat or ketones ketones are fats for fuel instead of carbohydrates. Why would the brain do that? Well, when the brain is restricted from carbohydrate intake for up to usually around 72 hours it takes, the brain just makes a decision and it switches its metabolism. Now, if you were to eat a very high protein, high vegetable, low fat, low carb diet, okay, think about what's going to happen. Your body doesn't have enough fuel. It doesn't have enough fats, to fuel the process. So a lot of that protein will get converted to carbohydrates in the liver via gluconeogenesis, to provide fuel. So that's why it's actually sometimes hard to get into a state of ketosis when you're not eating fats, because your body wants to convert the protein into carbs. That's not the ketogenic diet. That's not the Palumbo ketogenic diet. The Palumbo ketogenic diet is a high protein, moderate fat diet. That means 0.5 grams to 0.75 grams of fat per pound that you weigh. So for a 130-pound woman, she's going to take in 65 grams of fat per day. When you add that 15 to 20 grams of fat per meal with your 35 grams of protein for a woman, the fat is sparing the muscle, the fat is sparing the protein. So the protein is not going to convert to carbs because the brain doesn't need any glucose for fuel, And there's plenty of fat available via the fat you're ingesting plus stored body fat, and that's going to prevent that gluconeogenic process from occurring. Therefore, you're not going to lose muscle. You're going to have plenty of protein to build and repair muscle. That's what differentiates my diet from other diets. Now, the Atkins diet is another angle on a ketogenic diet. The Atkins diet is more fat, less protein. So it's not a performance diet. You'll lose weight, but you won't look good necessarily because there's not enough protein in there. Most people who follow an Atkins diet eat way more fat than they eat protein. And that's a problem. So the Palumbo ketogenic diet is a performance-based diet that's geared at maximizing repair and building of muscle while maximizing fat loss and minimizing muscle losses. And that's why there's a reason why I have people do everything I tell them to do, as well as supplementing with the right essential fatty acids, as well as other vitamins, minerals, and fiber supplements. And that's why you have to kind of understand the whole process. And that's something that, I teach how to teach that to other people in my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, which we'll be giving in 2 weeks on the 18th, Saturday the 18th here in Westbury, New York in the Arcs Muscle Studios. I only have one spot available, so if there's anyone out there who wants to take this and really truly educate themselves on how to write diets, supplementation routines, understand how drugs work, pre-contest, off-season, men, women, detoxification, site injection oils, all that stuff that everyone is so interested in, you could sign up at davepalumbo.com. There's one more seat available.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. As you see on the screen, next Monday, a special episode of Live With, as we are going to go live with Triple H next Monday, noon Eastern Standard Time. And then later on, we're going to have Stephanie McMahon. So 2 WWE-themed Live With episodes only on rxmuscle.com. For Johnny Styles and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.